People don't crave the forbidden because it is dangerous. They crave it because it reveals who they truly are beneath the layers of fear, morality, and inherited shame. That is the truth society spends centuries trying to bury. The forbidden is not an object. It is a mirror. And most people cannot handle the reflection. The forbidden is a door society tells you never to open. Yet your mind keeps circling it like a starving predator sensing food behind wood. You don't want what's behind the door. You want the version of yourself who is brave enough to open it. Humans don't chase danger. They chase permission. Permission to be raw. Permission to be real. Permission to be unfiltered, uncensored, unapologetic. The forbidden gives people something civilization never does. The right to exist without performing. Civilization demands performance. Morality demands obedience. Culture demands conformity. Religion demands self-denial. Family demands reputation. Community demands predictability. Society demands that you stay inside the character assigned to you. The forbidden says, drop the script. And that is why people crave it. Not for the danger. Not for the thrill. But for the truth. Because nothing exposes a human being faster than the moment they cross a line they were taught to fear. Start the first truth. Humans are attracted to what they are told to avoid. Humans are wired to defy instructions. Say, don't look. And the mind looks. Say, don't touch. And the hand twitches. Say, don't think about it. And the idea becomes impossible to erase. Restriction creates fascination. Fascination creates obsession. Obsession becomes desire. Forbidden desire is not deviant. Forbidden desire is engineered. The human brain is designed to test boundaries because testing boundaries is how early humans survived. You tasted the unknown berry not because it was safe, but because hunger made the risk worth it. You walked into the dark cave not because you expected treasure, but because curiosity was stronger than fear. Humans are the only species willing to risk death for meaning. No animal does that. Only humans choose danger voluntarily when danger promises knowledge, identity, or awakening. The forbidden promises all three. Start the second truth. The forbidden is not about desire, it's about identity. People think they want the forbidden object. They don't. They want the version of themselves who stops obeying. Humans are born wild, not moral. Morality is taught. Obedience is taught. Fear is taught. Everything, civilized, about you is installed like software. But the wildness remains in the hardware. So when you approach the forbidden, something ancient wakes up. Something older than laws, older than culture, older than civilization. Something evolutionary. The forbidden is not about breaking rules. It's about remembering you were never born with them. Deep inside, humans crave the forbidden because the forbidden feels like home. The home before society placed walls around your instincts. People don't talk about this because it's uncomfortable to admit. The forbidden is the closest humans ever get to meeting their unmasked self. That self is not polite. Not moral. Not safe. Not socially acceptable. It is instinct, impulse, curiosity, hunger, raw truth. Most people will do anything to avoid meeting that version of themselves. But they crave it anyway. Start the third truth. The forbidden makes humans feel alive. Life becomes dull when everything is predictable. Routine kills passion. Safety kills intensity. Comfort kills curiosity. Humans aren't built to feel alive inside a schedule. They're built to feel alive at the edge of uncertainty. The forbidden provides uncertainty. And uncertainty provides meaning. When you cross a forbidden line, your heart beats differently. Your breath shifts. Your senses sharpen. Your awareness expands. Not because of adrenaline, but because your brain is telling you, you are awake now. The forbidden is a psychological defibrillator. It shocks people out of the half-sleep they call normal life. And once a person tastes that wakefulness, they start needing it. People don't become addicted to danger. They become addicted to feeling alive. Start the fourth truth. Humans use the forbidden to escape themselves. People run toward the forbidden not to indulge, but to escape. Escape boredom. Escape expectation. Escape identity. Escape responsibility. Escape the version of themselves they feel trapped inside. Humans create selves just to survive social life. A self that pleases others. A self that maintains peace. A self that looks acceptable. A self that doesn't offend. A self that fits into the world. But that self is not you. That self is a mask made of guilt, fear, expectations, and inherited rules. The forbidden is the only moment the mask cracks. That's why the forbidden never feels small. It feels transformative. It feels like stepping into a parallel version of yourself. One who isn't afraid of consequences, judgment, or morality. The forbidden self is not your worst self. It is your unrestricted self. And that is why people fear it and desire it at the same time. Star the fifth truth. People crave the forbidden because truth is taboo. Here is the darkest part. Humans crave the forbidden because truth has become taboo. Truth about desire. Truth about hunger. Truth about fear. Truth about loneliness. Truth about power. Truth about identity. Truth about the shadow within every human imagination. Society doesn't fear misbehavior. Society fears honesty. The forbidden is the only place where honesty becomes possible. People call it temptation. People call it rebellion. People call it sin, immorality, recklessness. But what they truly fear is, what if the forbidden feels more real than the life I'm living now? And that's the existential earthquake. Because the forbidden doesn't just question morality. It questions meaning. It forces people to confront an idea they spend their whole lives avoiding. Maybe the life I built is not the life I want. People crave the forbidden because it gives them a glimpse of an alternate identity. The identity they could have had if fear wasn't driving their existence. Star the sixth truth. The forbidden is a reaction to being controlled. No human craves freedom until someone tries to take it away. The forbidden is most powerful in cultures that restrict people the hardest. Give humans unlimited choice. Desire becomes ordinary. Limit human choice. Desire becomes nuclear. Every forbidden rule produces the exact craving it tries to suppress. Tell someone not to question right pointing arrow, they question harder. Tell someone not to look right pointing arrow, they look deeper. Tell someone not to cross the line right pointing arrow, they stare at the line for years. Control breeds rebellion. Rebellion breeds desire. Desire breeds obsession. Humans don't crave the forbidden because it is dark. They crave it because it is the only place where they get to say no to the world and yes to themselves. Star the seventh truth. The forbidden is about power, not pleasure. People think the forbidden is about pleasure. They're wrong. The forbidden is about power. The moment a person does something forbidden, they experience a sensation most people never taste. Internal authority. The feeling that you control yourself more than society controls you. The feeling that your decisions hold more meaning than the rules meant to limit you. The feeling that you have broken through the invisible walls that cage your identity. And once a person feels that, they can never fully go back to being obedient. The forbidden does not create rebels. It reveals them. Star the eighth truth. Humans crave the forbidden because they are afraid of being ordinary. Humans want to matter. They want to feel unique. They want to feel different from the billions who live identical lives. The forbidden offers uniqueness. Not because the act itself is special, but because the courage to step into taboo separates people from the crowd. Crossing a forbidden threshold gives people a feeling of distinct identity. I am not like them. I am not replaceable. I am not predictable. I am not a copy. Most people live lives that feel too small for the size of their inner world. The forbidden feels like expansion. It feels like stepping into a version of life where your mind isn't filtered. Your emotions aren't censored. Your identity isn't edited. It feels like becoming the full volume version of yourself. In a world that keeps everyone on mute. Star the ninth truth. The forbidden is a form of inner resurrection. Humans don't seek the forbidden to destroy themselves. They seek it to resurrect themselves. Because deep inside, every human carries a buried self. The curious child. The rebellious teenager. The truth seeker. The wanderer. The unashamed dreamer. The wild soul. The honest version of who they were before the world taught them to shrink. The forbidden awakens that buried self. It shakes off the dust. It pulls old instincts out of the grave. It brings back the version of you who existed before fear took over. That experience feels like rebirth. Not the soft, spiritual kind. The violent, psychological kind. The kind where the old identity cracks and a truer one emerges under the pressure. This is why people say the forbidden changed them. It didn't. It revealed them. If the forbidden is resurrection, then desire is the shovel that digs the grave open. People think desire is simple, a feeling, an impulse, an instinct. They are wrong. Desire is a compass. The forbidden is the direction it points to when the truth is trying to surface. Humans chase the forbidden because something inside them refuses to die quietly. Something refuses to be domesticated. Something refuses to be silenced by morality, expectation, or reputation. and the forbidden becomes the place where that something breathes again. But here's where the story gets darker. Humans don't just crave the forbidden. They crave the consequences of the forbidden. They crave the guilt. They crave the risk. They crave the existential tremor that follows the act. Because in that tremor, for a brief moment, they feel something deeper than pleasure. Significance. The forbidden makes them feel like their actions matter in a world where they often feel insignificant. People feel invisible in their daily routines. Their jobs feel meaningless. Their relationships feel predictable. Their ambitions feel blocked by circumstance. Their identity feels swallowed by responsibilities. But when they step into something forbidden, the world suddenly pays attention. Their mind wakes up. Their emotions sharpen. Their heartbeat becomes a drum. Their conscience becomes a battlefield. Their identity becomes a question. And in that moment, they are undeniable. The forbidden doesn't just break rules. It breaks numbness. The true addiction is not the ACT, it is the internal earthquake. Humans misjudge what they're addicted to. They think they're addicted to experiences. They're not. They're addicted to the psychological aftershock. The chaos inside their chest after crossing a line they were told never to touch. The forbidden triggers the four sensations modern life starves them of. 1. Intensity. Modern life is mild, beige, controlled, predictable. The forbidden is pure intensity, a shockwave through the senses. 2. Uncertainty. People pretend to want stability, but too much stability suffocates them. The forbidden offers unpredictability, a doorway into chaos. 3. Vulnerability. Nothing reveals you to yourself faster than doing something you weren't supposed to. It exposes your motivations, your fears, your cravings. 4. Truth. The forbidden removes your mask. Not because you want to take it off, but because the moment demands it. These four sensations are rarely found in everyday life. It's not that humans are lost. It's that life has become too damn small for the size of their inner world. So what do? They seek expansion. And the forbidden becomes a shortcut to the expanded self. The dark paradox. Humans want what threatens them. Self-preservation is a biological instinct. But humans routinely violate it. Why? Because identity preservation is stronger than self-preservation. People will risk their reputation, their relationships, their stability, even their safety. Not for pleasure, but to escape the psychological prison they built for themselves. Humans would rather risk destruction than endure suffocation. That is why the forbidden is irresistible. It threatens the version of you that society built, and awakens the version of you that you imprisoned. People are not drawn to danger itself. They are drawn to the destruction of the identity that makes them feel trapped. This is the paradox. Humans aren't afraid of danger. They're afraid of wasting their life inside an identity that isn't theirs. The forbidden forces are reckoning. Who am I really? Who would I be if I didn't fear consequences? Which parts of me are real, and which are programmed? Most people don't want the answers, but they crave the moment that reveals them. The forbidden exposes the shadow, and the shadow is always hungry. Carl Jung said humans spend their whole lives running from their shadow. The part of themselves they don't want to admit exists. But here is the darker truth Jung didn't say. The shadow doesn't run from you. It waits. It waits behind suppressed emotions. It waits inside unspoken desires. It waits behind moral conditioning. It waits behind the image you try to uphold. Every forbidden act is a negotiation with the shadow. A handshake in the dark. The shadow says, "Let me speak. Let me exist. Let me breathe." And humans are terrified not because the shadow exists, but because the shadow tells the truth. The shadow knows your real motives, your real fears, your real longings, your real frustrations, your real wounds. The forbidden tempts people because it is the only moment the shadow becomes undeniable. You can hide from the world. You can hide from your family. You can hide from your beliefs. You can hide from your responsibilities. But doing something forbidden makes you face the one person you can never hide from. Yourself. Humans don't fear punishment. They fear self-recognition. The forbidden defeats shame, then replaces it with clarity. Most people don't realize this. Shame is a leash. It keeps humans obedient, anxious, easy to control. Every forbidden rule is tied to shame. Don't do this or you're bad. Don't think this or you're immoral. Don't want this or you're dirty. Don't question this or you're broken. Humans grow up fearing not the act, but the shame attached to the act. But when they finally do the forbidden, when the taboo is broken, something unexpected happens. The shame dies. Once the act is done, the imagined consequences dissolve. The world doesn't end. The self doesn't shatter. The moral police don't appear. And the person is left with an uncomfortable, liberating truth. It wasn't the act one was afraid of. It was the idea of myself that someone else planted in my mind. When shame dies, clarity replaces it. Forbidden experiences don't just break rules. They break illusions. Humans fear illusions breaking more than they fear rules breaking. Because illusions protect their identity from uncomfortable truths. The forbidden takes those illusions and burns them. The forbidden is an exile from the ordinary world. Modern humans don't live. They endure. Bills, jobs, expectations, noise, pressure, politeness, social masks, small talk. Everything is mechanical. Everything is performative. Everything is muted. Humans aren't depressed. They're bored. They're disconnected from themselves. They're drowning in predictability. They're suffocating under routine. They're spiritually underfed. The forbidden is exile. Temporary exile from the world where they feel unseen and unlived. In the forbidden, emotions have weight. Thoughts have consequences. Choices feel real. Time slows. Memory sharpens. Identity becomes vivid. It feels like stepping out of grayscale life into something saturated, raw, tactile. Humans don't want danger. They want vividness. The forbidden is vivid. The forbidden breaks the silence people live inside. Most humans walk around with unspoken truths locked inside them. Unspoken desires. Unspoken fears. Unspoken regrets. Unspoken temptations. Unspoken curiosities. Unspoken fantasies. Unspoken frustrations. Unspoken wounds. The forbidden gives voice to the things they never say out loud. It becomes a silent conversation between who they are and who they could be, if they weren't so conditioned to stay silent. For some, this conversation is thrilling. For others, it's terrifying. For everyone, it's transformative. The forbidden cracks open the internal vault and unleashes truths people have spent decades burying. I want more. I want different. I want freedom. I want intensity. I want authenticity. I want to know myself beyond the version society approves. Most people won't admit these thoughts. But they crave the forbidden because the forbidden admits it for them. The forbidden destroys the myth of the good person. Everyone thinks they are a good person until the forbidden tests them. The forbidden exposes the hypocrisy in every human identity. You think you're moral? Break a rule and see how quickly morality bends. You think you're rational? Face temptation and see how fast logic collapses. You think you're stable? Cross a line and feel the earthquake under your feet. Humans cling to the identity of being good, because being good makes them feel safe. But the forbidden reveals a darker truth. People are not good. People are governed by the fear of appearing bad. And once that fear breaks, they learn something liberating. The good person they pretend to be was never their true self. The forbidden shatters the illusion of moral superiority. It forces people to confront the uncomfortable idea that morality is not innate. It is conditional. Remove the conditions, and the truth walks in. The forbidden is the only place where humans feel honestly alive. There are only two states where humans are brutally honest. When they're in pain. When they're in something forbidden. Pain strips away illusions. So does the forbidden. Pain reveals what matters. So does the forbidden. Pain shows vulnerability. So does the forbidden. Pain exposes identity. So does the forbidden. But with a twist. The forbidden exposes pleasure inside the vulnerability. That combination is explosive. It rewires the mind. It redefines the self. It shakes the foundation of who people think they are. Humans walk around pretending to be stable. The forbidden laughs at their stability. Humans pretend to be moral. The forbidden laughs at their morality. Humans pretend to be rational. The forbidden laughs at their logic. Not because it wants to destroy them, but because it wants to reveal them. The forbidden is a psychological scalpel. It cuts away the parts of you that never belong to you, and exposes the raw anatomy of your real identity. The forbidden is not chaos. It only feels like chaos to a mind that has lived too long inside a cage. People say the forbidden breaks them, but the truth is even darker. The forbidden doesn't break people. It shows them the cracks that were already there. Most humans are emotional time bombs pretending to be furniture. They sit still. They stay quiet. They act stable. They obey the script. They convince themselves that the pressure buried inside them is discipline instead of suppression. And then they touch something forbidden. And the pressure starts leaking through the cracks they've been ignoring for years. That is why the forbidden feels overwhelming. Not because the act is powerful, but because the person has been living against their own nature for too long. The forbidden becomes the first honest conversation they've had with themselves in decades. And that conversation is almost always uncomfortable. The forbidden is a memory of a self you abandoned. Humans think their identity is linear. That they have grown, evolved, matured, improved. But identity isn't a staircase. It's a battlefield. And every version of yourself you abandoned is still alive inside you. Waiting to speak. Your childhood curiosity. Your teenage rebellion. Your young adult intensity. Your early dreams. Your forgotten instincts. Your old courage. Your deeper fears. The forbidden doesn't create new desires. It resurrects old ones. Desires you buried to fit in. Desires you silenced to be accepted. Desires you denied to feel good. Desires you shamed to survive social judgment. Every forbidden impulse is a ghost returning home. That's why it feels familiar. Not exciting, but familiar in a haunting, intimate way. It's the version of yourself you left behind knocking on the door. People crave the forbidden because they have no other place to be themselves. Humans are experts at living everywhere except inside their own truth. They live inside expectations, responsibilities, roles, identities that make others comfortable, masks that protect them, narratives that justify them. But very rarely do they live inside themselves. The forbidden offers something no social environment can. A temporary asylum for the real self. Not the polished self. Not the socially approved self. Not the useful self. Not the loyal self. Not the moral self. Not the image-protected self. But the self that thinks, wants, fears, and desires without censorship. That self is exiled everywhere else. The forbidden is its only homeland. And people will always long to return home. Even if the home terrifies them. The forbidden is a protest against the life that feels too small. Most humans won't admit how suffocating their life is. They suffocate inside marriage. They suffocate inside career paths. They suffocate inside expectations. They suffocate inside routine. They suffocate inside identities that others designed for them. They suffocate inside the pressure to look good, behave well, stay quiet. Humans aren't craving sin. Humans are craving air. The forbidden becomes an escape hatch. The only window that opens in a sealed room. Even when people fear the consequences. They still approach the window. They still push it open. They still inhale the strange cold air of freedom. It's not rebellion. It's survival. Humans don't run to the forbidden because they are immoral. They run to it because they are drowning. The forbidden is oxygen. The forbidden reveals the imbalance between WHO you are and WHO you pretend to be. There are two selves inside every human. 1. The self you show the world. Approved, polite, moral, predictable, good. 2. The self you hide from the world. Wild, curious, fearful, desiring, chaotic, honest. The forbidden collapses the distance between these two selves. And the collapse is violent. Because the moment you touch something taboo, you realize there is a massive gap between your outer life and your inner truth. Most people spend decades pretending these two selves are aligned. The forbidden exposes that they are not even close. That exposure is both thrilling and devastating. Humans want to be whole, but they live fragmented. The forbidden reunites the fragments. And for a moment, the person feels like one being instead of a collage of masks. That wholeness feels forbidden not because it is immoral, but because it is rare. The forbidden reminds humans that they are not as good as they believe. Humans build their identity around the idea of being good. They believe they are loyal, rational, moral, controlled, unshakable. But this self-image is fragile. One forbidden opportunity can shatter it instantly. The forbidden doesn't corrupt people. It reveals them. It shows them the truth. They are not as loyal as they thought. They are not as rational as they pretended. They are not as moral as they advertised. They are not as stable as they present. They are not as predictable as they wish. The forbidden is the only mirror that doesn't lie. And humans both fear and crave that mirror. They fear what it shows. But they crave the liberation of finally seeing themselves without filters. The forbidden is terrifying because it exposes the truth the ego tries to hide. Humans are not good. They are merely contained. The forbidden removes the container. The forbidden is the shadow's way of saying, you can't ignore me forever. Every forbidden desire is a message from the unconscious. A warning. A request. A confession. But people don't listen. They suppress. They tighten. They rationalize. They distract. They push the shadow deeper. And the deeper the shadow goes, the louder the forbidden becomes. Humans think repression is strength. It's not. Repression is a debt. Every forbidden impulse is the interest accumulating on that debt. Ignore it long enough, and one day the debt demands to be paid. This is why forbidden desires often erupt suddenly and violently. After years of emotional numbness. After a lifetime of obedience. After decades of being good. After burying your real self under responsibilities. The eruption is not a collapse. It is a consequence. You can ignore the shadow, but the shadow never ignores you. The forbidden is a reaction to being watched your whole life. Humans today are constantly watched. By society, by family, by community, by expectations, by social media, by invisible rules. But the most oppressive watcher is internal. The inner judge. The inner critic. The inner police. The internalized voices of parents, teachers, culture, morality. Humans live suffocated under surveillance. Even when nobody is physically present. The forbidden is the only moment when that surveillance goes silent. The forbidden whispers. For once in your life, nobody is watching who you become. Not because there is no witness, but because, for the first time, you stop performing for the witness. Humans don't crave the forbidden act. They crave the disappearance of the constant watcher. They crave psychological privacy. They crave the ability to exist without being evaluated. They crave the freedom to be flawed without fearing judgment. The forbidden gives that illusion. And humans desperately need it. Because they have forgotten what it feels like to live inside themselves instead of inside the expectations of others. The forbidden is a rehearsal for a more honest life. Humans lie to themselves constantly. They lie about what they want. They lie about who they love. They lie about who they are. They lie about what they fear. They lie about their dreams. They lie about their regrets. They lie about their values. They lie to survive. They lie to belong. They lie to maintain peace. But the forbidden doesn't accept lies. It demands honesty. Forbidden desire is the rehearsal. A rehearsal for a life where the person stops lying about what they truly want. Some people use the forbidden to destroy their lives. Others use it to rebuild their lives. Because once the forbidden reveals a truth, you cannot fully return to your previous identity. Truth is irreversible. It doesn't matter if you run. It doesn't matter if you regret. It doesn't matter if you deny. Once you know. And knowing changes everything. The forbidden is the shortest path to self-knowledge. Philosophers spend entire lives searching for the self. Meditators sit in silence for decades. Therapists peel the mind layer by layer. But the forbidden reveals the self in seconds. Because the forbidden forces a person to confront the self they pretend to be. The self they actually are. The self they are afraid they might become. The self they wish they could be. The self they were trained to suppress. Nothing else does this so quickly. Nothing else slices through identity so brutally. Nothing else exposes the machinery of the mind so clearly. The forbidden is the scalpel that cuts directly into the truth. And humans crave truth. Even when they spend their lives running from it. Humans think the forbidden is outside them. But the darkest truth is this. The forbidden lives inside them. The external rule is just a symbol. A mirror. A screen. The real forbidden thing. The thing they spend their entire lives avoiding. Is their own mind. Humans don't crave forbidden acts. They crave forbidden truths. Every forbidden temptation is an inner voice trying to speak. And every moral rule is a wall built to silence it. The real conflict is not between a person and society. It's between a person and themselves. The forbidden is simply the battlefield where the two selves finally meet face to face. And that confrontation is what terrifies people the most. Not sin. Not danger. Not consequences. But clarity. Because clarity demands a death. The death of the person you pretended to be. The forbidden is a burial and a rebirth at the same time. Every human carries multiple funerals inside them. Funerals for dreams they abandoned. Funerals for selves they killed to survive. Funerals for authenticity they traded for acceptance. The forbidden resurrects everything they buried. That resurrection feels like chaos because humans aren't prepared for the return of the parts they exiled. But here's the paradox. The forbidden resurrects you, only to ask you which version of yourself deserves to live. People assume they fear the forbidden because it threatens their morals. No. They fear the forbidden because it threatens their identity. The forbidden forces a choice. Stay in the persona that keeps you accepted, approved, applauded, or step into the self that feels truer but risks everything. The forbidden doesn't break people. It demands they choose which self dies. The forbidden is a mirror of human hypocrisy. Every human privately desires things that publicly horrify them. Every human judges in others what they secretly crave. Every human builds moral frameworks to hide their own internal chaos. Every human loves watching others break rules because it gives them permission to imagine breaking their own. Humans are walking contradictions. They worship purity while craving transgression. They preach discipline while drowning in impulses. They demand honesty while lying to themselves. They worship rules while looking for loopholes. They idolize stability while suffocating inside it. The forbidden simply exposes the hypocrisy that was already there. Humans don't fear contradiction. They fear being seen as contradictory. This is why the forbidden feels magnetic. It gives humans a private space where their hypocrisy can exist without judgment. They don't want to be pure. They want to be seen as pure. They don't want to be moral. They want to be rewarded for morality. They don't want to be good. They want to avoid the discomfort of being labeled bad. The forbidden strips away the image. It leaves only the truth. And the truth is never clean. The forbidden is an unavoidable part of human psychology. You can moralize. You can shame. You can warn. You can punish. You can restrict. And humans will still crave the forbidden. Not because they are broken, but because they are built this way. Humans evolved to push boundaries to survive. Curiosity is older than civilization. Instinct is older than belief systems. Desire is older than morality. The shadow is older than the ego. Civilization is a new experiment. Human nature is not. People crave the forbidden because they are wired to explore edges. Geographical edges, emotional edges, psychological edges, existential edges. The forbidden represents the edge. And humans are edge walkers by design. The forbidden makes humans feel their soul again. Modern life deadens the soul. The sameness. The repetition. The duties. The performance. The masks. The roles. The routine. The pressure to appear fine. Humans don't lose their soul. They lose access to it. The forbidden cracks the door open. It makes people feel the intensity of being alive. The pounding heartbeat. The raw awareness. The sharpened senses. The vulnerability. The truth pressing against the skin. The internal chaos. The undeniable aliveness. This is the sensation humans keep trying to return to. Not because they love the forbidden, but because they miss themselves. The forbidden doesn't give them something new. It returns something they lost. The forbidden is about freedom, but not the freedom people think. Most people misunderstand freedom. They think freedom is the ability to do whatever they want. But true freedom is something deeper. The ability to face what you truly want without lying to yourself. Most humans never experience that freedom. They experience controlled choices, curated desires, domesticated ambitions, safe fantasies, socially acceptable emotions. But the forbidden reveals the raw desire that lives beneath all that. And the raw desire terrifies them because it does not obey identity. It does not align with values. It does not care about consequences. It does not care about appearance. It only cares about truth. Humans don't crave the forbidden act. They crave the forbidden truth about who they are. The forbidden is not a behavior. It is a revelation. The final truth. Humans don't crave the forbidden because it's wrong. They crave it because it's real. This is the truth buried at the center of the human psyche. Humans crave what feels real. And everything real has a shadow. The forbidden feels real because it bypasses the moral filter, the logical filter, the social filter, the performance filter, the persona filter. It hits the brain raw, unbuffered, unpolished, unedited. Humans spend so much time pretending that the forbidden becomes the only place they stop pretending. Not because they choose to stop, but because the intensity of the experience forces them to. The forbidden is not about sin, not about rebellion, not about danger, not about thrill. It is about authenticity. The forbidden reveals the self beneath the self. The version of you that exists before fear, before culture, before morality, before expectation, before shame. The forbidden is not attractive because it is dark. It is attractive because it is honest. Darkness is just honesty without cosmetics. Star the ultimate conclusion. Humans crave the forbidden because the forbidden is the only thing they cannot lie to themselves about. Everything else in life can be rationalized. Everything else can be justified. Everything else can be suppressed. But the forbidden cuts through the fog. It exposes the truth humans spend decades avoiding. You do not fear the world. You fear yourself. And the forbidden is the only place you ever meet yourself without disguises. That meeting can change you, terrify you, break you, awaken you, free you, but you cannot walk away from it untouched. Because once you see the truth inside yourself, you cannot unsee it. And that is why humans keep returning to the forbidden. Not because they want to be bad. Not because they want to rebel. Not because they want danger. But because the forbidden is the only moment they feel completely, brutally, unmistakably alive.